This is a 1990 Regal 20 foot that I just bought for $2,800, and I got a problem with the outdrive that I want to kind of show you and explain what is going on here, why it looks like this corrosion issue, and kind of yeah, explain what's going on. You're going to get a little bit of an education today. So right here, obviously our skeg is missing. We look right here on this plate and you see that that is cracked. This is chipped off, it's bent up. They obviously struck something. If we look back here, you can see that this plate that runs here has been broken off. It's broken off all the way to there. And if you look in there, they have these rusty washers. So this is an issue. The anode that is supposed to go here is gone. This plate is an anti-ventilation plate. What that means is that whenever your propeller is spinning, that this plate here stops any air from coming down, because there's a high and a low pressure side of this propeller. When it's going through the water, you know, it's got, you know, low pressure coming in and it's sucking it in, high pressure going out. So because there are those two pressures, it will suck in air without this plate. That is a ventilation. But I want to show you something on this propeller as well, because this is a cavitation issue. So on this blade you can see there's no issues. On this blade you can see there's no issues, minus whatever happened here. Somebody's been in there dinging around doing something, but our edge is really clean, no issues. On this blade here, you'll notice that it is all jagged and jacked up, messed up, got all these burrs on it. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but you can, there's burrs all along this edge. Now what happens with these burrs is that this propeller is going through the water like this, so it's got water, it's cutting that water through like this. A clean blade like this, it just slides right through the water, doesn't really disturb the water as much, and it'll leave a trail of bubbles out the back of it as it's going through and cutting through. But it's a clean trail, it's not going down on the blade. This creates a massive aeration of the water. It's basically splitting the atoms. You know, you got H2O, hydrogen and oxygen, and this is basically causing all kinds of disturbances in the water, and that's creating little bubbles. Those little bubbles then come down onto this, and because of the high and low pressure on both sides of the blade of the propeller, you see all those little spots, these little specks all in here, these little pits. Anytime you see all these little pits, these spots, that is cavitation, and that is where these little bubbles that are created from this disturbance of the blade being all jacked up and all the burrs on it, those little bubbles of that disturbance basically explode because of the high-low pressure, or they will also basically boil because of the pressures, and they will pop. Water boils at 212 degrees, and that is what all this is. That pitting are those little bubbles basically exploding on the blade of the propeller, and that is called cavitation, which is not to be confused with ventilation, which is the sucking of air in here. Just taking you away from the lesson real quick about this lower unit and the corrosion issue, I wanted to give a special thank you to the sponsor of this boat. We're actually going to name this boat Wholesale because of wholesalemarine.com. They're helping sponsor this entire project. So if you guys need something for your boat, please check them out at wholesalemarine.com. Use the links in the description or the pinned comment below, as well as the discount code, so you can get a discount on whatever you need for your boat. Now, how exactly what they did, I don't know. With the skeg being gone, somebody's obviously kind of ground this down, because that's a clean break. But also the strike is interesting because no damage all along this edge. So usually if it's a hard strike on something, there's damage here, but it's not. They just basically knocked the skeg off. Somebody has like ground it down a little bit, but all of this is like an electrolysis. This is not like sand that's been sitting in the mud. This is basically a form of corrosion where it's getting other metals and stuff that is attaching itself to this in a form of, I guess the best word would be electrolysis. I'm not sure if that's the correct word, but it's a way that you're going to understand what I'm talking about. So that's what this is. And then also all of the paint that is chipping off and discoloring, all up here, it's all gone. All that's gone, all that's gone. All around the housing here, the gimbal housing or whatever they call this thing on a stern drive. I don't do a ton of work on stern drives, but that is why all this paint's missing. I'm looking around and I don't see any sacrificial anodes anywhere around this entire drive. Now, a sacrificial anode is the metal that is going to get eaten before any other metal does. This paint being chipped off and messed up and like eating itself, that is because the metal is eating itself and there is no sacrificial anode for the metal to, or the electrolysis basically, or the corrosion to eat, opposed to eating the actual drive itself. Now, what is creating this is the interesting section of all this, because normally, you know, if they put this hydrofoil on here, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that, but because of it missing this back here, I guess they wanted to create this plate in order to attach this on here to keep it like straight. But the problem with that is that under here is where that anode is supposed to go. So opposed to that anode being there, we have replaced it with different kinds of metals. So we've got a stainless steel propeller here, which is nothing wrong with that. We have an aluminum cast lower unit, aluminum cast on the stern drive, and then all this is also, I believe, aluminum cast. We've got stainless steel here, and we've got some kind of stainless screws, stainless bolts, a different kind of washer because it's rusting way quicker, so that is not a stainless washer. And then we have this steel plate, this metal plate that is not stainless, it is some other form of metal. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially 4 or 5 different types of metals that are now being submerged into water. As soon as you submerge all these different types of metals, it creates corrosion and a form of electrolysis where they basically create a battery because they're dissimilar metals, and that's just the way they react when you put them all in a conductive substance like water, which is what is causing all of this discoloration, all because, and then possibly all of this, which is attaching itself on here, opposed to being you know, it kind of looks like dirt, but it's not. It's electrically stuck on there. It's not a dirt like the Skeg was in sand or something like that, which is crazy. You know, you wouldn't think about this, but it's been going on for a long time. Someone's been running this for that long. Now, one other thing that I want to show you outside of that, and why it's so important to have your anodes intact, as well as not putting other types of metals. Don't put regular steel or metal along with aluminum and stainless and all these different metals together, because you're going to cause a bunch of issues like this. But one other thing that I'm going to show you, a trick that you can see on how to know, you know, if you've bent the prop shaft, because they've changed the propeller out. And when they change the propeller out, they're basically trying to hide something. So let me show you how I can tell that this thing is messed up with the prop shaft being bent. So what we're going to do is we're going to be taking a screwdriver, a long one. We're going to find a spot on the anti-ventilation plate, and we're going to bring the tip of it down like this so that you can see right there, and we're going to be watching the tip of the screwdriver and that pinhole that is in the propeller. You want to hold this completely steady. You don't need to spin the propeller really fast in order to see this. You go slow, because if you go fast, you're more likely to move your hand like that. But I'm going to spin this propeller slowly, and you're going to watch how that little dot will move up and down on the tip of the screwdriver that we are going to be holding steady right here. You don't need to like grind it down into there. But let me show you how this propeller is bent. You will see that kind of that dot move when I spin the propeller. So like I am right on the tip of the screwdriver and on that hole. I'm going to spin it slowly. And now I'm 1/8 of an inch off, 1/16 of an inch off of that hole. And then when I come back around, boom, I'm back to even again. Oh, actually a little bit deeper. Come back around, I'm way off now from there to there. Come back around, still off. And boom, now I'm back to being even. So we know 100% that this thing got a good strike and has bent this prop shaft. So this is a bent prop shaft. And the issue with the prop shaft being bent is that you've got a seal like this, and that prop shaft is wobbling around inside of that seal. And that wobble, when you go faster, like let's say 3,000 RPM, that wobble is going to be moving inside that seal, which is going to allow gear lube to get out of the lower unit as well as water to get in. So as the speed goes quicker, you create pressure inside of the gear case. Not a ton of pressure, but it does create pressure. You know, I don't know what the exact number is. Maybe it's 8, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 12. Somewhere around there, that's about how much pressure is inside of the gear case with all the gear spinning around, and that will push the gear lube out into the water. And then when you slow down, it will actually suck it in, because it'll basically create a vacuum, because you had this pressurized cylinder that now is not having that pressure anymore, and boom, your gear lube goes out, your water comes in. You do that for 100 hours, you're gonna blow up the lower unit, because there ain't nothing but water inside the gear case. So that is the biggest issue with this, is that this lower unit is pretty much done. I mean, we could put gear lube in it and run it as is, get rid of this plate to stop the corrosion, but eventually this lower unit, you either need to put a prop shaft in it or you need to replace it. SCI makes a really good one. Special shout out to our sponsor, Wholesale Marine, that's helping us out on this boat, this project. You can get a discount code using the links in the description below to get anything for your boat, but they also sell SCI lower unit or stern drives, which is probably what we're going to get in order to replace this one. The whole assembly for a Mercruiser is like $4 grand. So we're going to be doing an SCI. It comes with 3 years of warranty, which is going to be great for us. So special thank you to Wholesale Marine. Check them out if you need anything for your boat. So if you see anything like this, if your whole lower unit or metal, any kind of component that is doing something like this, it's discoloring, the metal is flaking off or anything like that, you most likely have some kind of corrosion, galvanic corrosion, electrolysis, some kind of corrosion issue that is creating this problem here, which is why you always want to then start looking for things like this that is the culprit and what is creating that issue that you might not think about. And this is a freshwater boat, this is not saltwater. So those of you that think that corrosion is only an issue in saltwater, this is freshwater lakes. So depending on what lake you're in, the minerals that are there, you can have this kind of an issue in even a freshwater lake where you're not dealing with salt water that is way more corrosive. It just happens a lot quicker in saltwater. So hope you guys learned something. Check out wholesalemarine.com. See you guys later.